today is Yud Aleph the Teves. We're on Samech Tes. Share with Rabbi Gaffney and Samech Tes.
Right, so we started the Ayin Shel Hayesh Amiti. The Moshe was the Ayin of the Koyach Tzaymeach Ha'atzmi, and that was Ha'ora Claudius. We saw that the even HaClaudius was that it wasn't just a klal which was Koilol Pratim, and Mamela Ein Lecho Mashe Ein Lecho Beklal, Ela Mashe Ish Befrat. The other we saw was a Claudius, that it was moved out from Inyan Pratim, and even though we have to say that those Pratim are Kludim, but they're Kludim in Oifen, not of Hamshocher, which would be possible, but Derech Haloas Man, that you could sort of reach the Klal Alidei Haloa Milmata Lamaila, but the Klal is completely Lamaila or moved out min Ha-Pratim. And that is different from the normal concept of Klal V'Prat. Well, B'Koyach Klali Kazeh, right down at the end of the Omid, Eino Magia Haloas Man Prati, Gim Haloas Man Klali Davke, Usha Magia Lashon. The Amshocher Hu Eino Shenimshech, Bechinas Amshocher Protius, Gim Masha Meir, Bechinas HaKoyach HaKlali, Kamoisha Hu. So we discussed that. It's unlinked that there can be a Haloas Man Klali, and Bamela that comes out from the Ayin Amshocher Claudius. Well, like we brought the dogma of certain Pu'ulas, B'derech Manucha, or Kayetza B'zeh, in the Klolas HaOretz, or they cause an arousal of the Klolas HaCapacity, the general capacity of the earth to produce. And so therefore there can be an Nimshuk Mizeh Ayin in Klali, but not Shaychas Klau, or not that there's nickel in that, any of the particular pratim. And so we saw that Kamoy Kain Yuvan Ba'oras Koyach HaTzameach HaKlali Lo Yagia Bo Chinas Haloas Man Mizriyas Hagarina Aprati. Well, that's the completion of the shayla that we started off with. We asked the kasha, why do we need a second ha'ora, which we saw was the ha'ora proteus yoter, which is shayat to the ha'gdolo, the ha'tzmocha, the latzmiach, the etzem peirus, or the etzem tzmochim ha'protium. We just say that we have a haloas man alidei zriyo into the etzem koyach ha'klali. So that's the end of that period. That's the maskana of the teretz to that kasha, that this is our klal, that a halos man, being as it is, a certain prat wouldn't be able to reach the klal. And the only type of halos man that would reach it would be the halos man klali, which we just discussed. How do we view these two ha'oras if we say that one is completely another Indian, the other one being ha'ora from the Atzmi himself, and the other already being shaykh to Tzmichas ha'protiim? How do they relate, and how can they be described one to the other? He says, Ha'inyan hu sheba ayin yesh beis madrega. That's why we start off. Generally, we said that in a brief and close stick away at the beginning, and now after this whole year, when I get to the Ha'ora Claudius, we now come to the conclusion that there must also be a further Ha'ora, which is B'derech Proteus from the Ha'ora Claudius. And that means that we have two madregas in the ayin, as we've already stressed on several occasions. Base Mashanim, I'm sorry, Yesh base madrega. Ho aleph bechinas ha'er ve'hakoyach ha'klali Animshuk Mikeach Hatzemeach Achmi, what we've discussed him now, or that level on great length. Vabeis Mashenimshak Mimenu, and the second level in the iron is Mashenimshak Mimenu, it's nimshak from that Koyach HaKloli, Al Yedei, in brackets he writes Al Yedei Tzimtzum. Beginnes koya proti liyeish mokel etzmicha mam. In other words, a new ayin, which is what we call the ayin of the yesh anivra, if we call it in the nimshal l'mayla, a level which is already yeshaya to be mislavish in the protium, in the tzmochim ha-protium. Isn't it? Excuse me. I don't want people covering their faces. Because you can never know what they're up to. Can you? Ayin yesh beis madrega. So aleph hakoyach vabeis mashenimshuk mimenu al yedei tzimtzum. And what is that? A beginnes koyach proti liyesh mochel etzmicha mamish. Shebekoyach ze yesh is kaleres koyach protiim. Liyesh mekoyrim lahatzmiach protim. In other words, here we see that it is similar to the klal ela prat. Here it's already a kloli, but it's a kloli in the more simple, understandable sense of the klal, that it's already a klal, which has a tremendous iskali. In this case, it's an immense series of protiim. But the protim are niklolim in the klal, and therefore it's shayet, the whole concept of halos man proti, depending on what sort of garin you sow. If you sow a certain seed and you call out of that, is kalus petich haklal, that particular prat, and that particular prat becomes nimshach and iskale. Amamela. We've already come down then from a tremendous state of a klal which is Eino Shayach L'Protim klal, and a klal which is Shayach to Protium, and it's Kul and it's Otinian for Protium. So also to Shaila, how does that happen? How do you get from a klal, from such a iron to the second iron? In other words, we've got two irons now. So Shaila, the first iron is a tremendously closed decay. How does it get to the iron of base that you've already got a klal which is shy to protium, and it's already shayat that there should be a halos man alidei the zriya of the particular garin to cause the particular gilui of that particular tzema. So also to Shaila, how do you get a gilui from one to the other? Well, we see that everybody's very trogen by the whole question. Everybody's tif to brochen, but they don't have the teret.
I don't understand. Why is this such a big question? It seems more of a question, how do you get from the first yesh to the first ayin? And I don't think we went and didn't go on.
Well, we already discussed that at some length. We said that was zina from ha'ora bilvad. Ha'ora is gili ha'oyer, just like the oyer is meir from the moyer. So the original koyach is like the ma'or, and there's meir from the ma'or, ha'ora, which is pederach oyer mi'amoyer. We already discussed that at length. So Machilas COVID doesn't need the shaila. The shaila is, once you already got a zah ha'ora, how do you get to the other ha'ora? Those are the question. So to shaila, what does the Rebbe mean by this word tzimtzum? Because obviously that is the key to the whole thing. That is the fact that he's put in the word tzimtzum. Well, that's the key to it, and that's key with the word and the sfara hidden in that word tzimtzum, which is going to be Megala. What is the word? So what does he mean by the inif and tzimtzum? So we have to assume that we could learn that tzimtzum means that since I got one ha'ora, and that ha'ora is already a oyer, it's not the etchim, koyach hatzim. It's not it's only oil. So if I have a oil, then I can be mitzamtzem oil. I can be limited and how do you call it, be mamayet. I can lessen the intensity of the isgalus of that oil, and maybe I can alidei cause a yerida in the erech of that oil, legabide, the tzmochim we want eventually to come in the mashal, or the nimshal or legabide nevroim that we want eventually to come out, and that symptom will cause a kiruv yoter in the ha'ora, depending on the nature and the profundity, or what you might call the fanem, as they say in Yiddish, of that symptom. That's what we could learn, and then we'd be able to say, to say that first of all there was the tzimtzum harishon, the tzimtzum hagodol, what that brought about the inyan and the gilui of Ak. And even though we've said on many occasions that Ak is already moved on me our pratim, but nonetheless the pratim is somehow or another klulim in Ak. And either the ayin or the yesh amiti, we could say that's the yesh lifnei tzimtzum. In other words, that there was a yesh lifnei tzimtzum, there was a grace tzimtzum, and now we've come down that even though it's still a klali, or compared to the klal, it was quite a tzimtzum, it's not comparable at all, and we could say in a general way that it's already the prata shaykh al klal, even though that's not really true. Bemis of Ak, but also putting for comparative purposes, like avideas lifnei tzimtzum, that's what we could say. Well, the answer is that ein chanami be'inyam mesuyam. We can say that. However, it's mavur and siddur a little bit different. And that when he puts in here the word alidei tzimtzum, it means a slightly different emphasis. Even though for whatever reasons we aren't zeicha here to a biur oroch in the inyan, of al-Chapanim, we have to use our thinking caps to understand what does the Rebbe mean by this inyan of tzimtzum, ma kavanose, bezeh. We have to say that generally speaking, all inyanim in Elikus are all klulim in the Eibishter. We can't very well say that there's anything which is later mizgale, which is not somehow or another kolol in atzmusa is bora. Everything comes from the etzem atzmus of Elikus. How does David HaMelech say, Ki mimcha ha'koil, everything is from you, cholila, to say that something came about later in these thousands, which wasn't kolol in the Eishu Mokim, Nesinas Mokim, V'yatzmusa, but everything's from the Meibus, everything comes V'yatzmusa. So we have to say that these two levels of the Ha'orah, like we said earlier, Benegir to Das Elyon and Das Tachton, which we already said that earlier, and we were Masbir. The Das Elyon and Das Tachton are two different things that Kilo, one is a Stama Ha'orah from the other, but those are both of them Nichlolim and Nimtoim, but they're both found in Elikus. As the pasuk has it, Ki Keil Deis Havaya, that the Eibishter is a divinity of Deis. Right? In other words, he's koiling himself by the inyanim. We have to say that these two inyanim, the Ha'orah Klolius and the Ha'orah Pratius, are both of them an imshochim from Atzmusis Borach, and both of them are klulim that Biatzmusa. Mami. It a say there's another inyan in the tzimtzum which is very important to bear in mind, and that is that the tzimtzum is not only just a dover hamalim of madregis mesuyomis, but the tzimtzum is also what we call mavdil, bein inyan zeh le'inyan zeh. In other words, that the tzimtzum, as it were, separates off, and as megala one inyan, but they're pure from the Adeh, Boyibizman, that the way they are mitzad atzmusis, but they're all kolu, and it's all one inyan, saying nika loizeh v'loizeh. And therefore we have to say that the pu'ula and the tzimtzum, which is moving in this inyan, is that ein of hanami in the Eibishter and in the Yor, which was Mishkala Memenu in the Ur HaKloli, originally both things were Niklau. And the Pu'ula, the Tzimtzum is that the Tzimtzum is Mavdil Bein Zeh Zeh. In other words, that the Tzimtzum is Mavdil, and that which is Mamish Shaykh only to the Eibishter, and remains Kloli as Azevihi, that kilo is Oila Lamaila, as you might say, or it's Nidbak, Nisha Nidbak Boy is Bora, and then there's a further in him which is Nivdal, which we weren't Makir at, we didn't recognize, it wasn't Kaviyochel, Begolui, and now it becomes Begolui. And the famous moshel for that is the Rav, when he's being Mashpia Aseichel Latalmid, is well known. The famous moshel of Rav Latalmid become Inyanim Beneger to Gilei Lakuz, that the Rav, the way he understands the Seichel, is that's how it's Miyuchad and Medubach in his Seichel, Besikleihu, in the Seichel Anifla, from the Rav. When he's going to be mashpia to a Talmid Koton, what the word Koton means that Talmid is Eina Be'erech to him, Eina Be'erech alav Klau, so it's more in serious that he has to make a Tzimtzum in himself. He has to sort of put aside the whole Indian of the Seichel, the way he understood it, in order to try and get to a mocker in his mind, which would be some sort of a mocker for Seichel, which might go down to the Talmid. As there's Mavur, B'Rav Drushim in Chassidus. That what's happened here is that Alidei, what the Rav wants, and he has a rotzen, lahashpia, he has his ability in his own mind and his own self to be Mavdil Bein Zeh Lazeh. In other words, that he keeps within himself, or that part of or that oifan, that manner of the Seichel, which is purely sharp to his understanding, and he's Mavdil another level altogether. He brings out in himself. And that happens through this power of limiting himself. As I state, that he's able to be matamtum, and the kavana in that tzimtzum with the avos ha-talmid. Because he really wants to help the talmid. The talmid is chaviv etzlei, b'tachlis ha-chavivet, and that causes that he's able to hold himself back, b'tachlis, and that holding back gives him the siyata d'shmaya that he's able to produce a new level altogether in the seichel, which is moved down me a seichel of Shel Atzmai. And then that undergoes further, you read this for Tzimtzumim, and eventually comes into the Seichel of that Talmud. And as it's put down that there are 4 different levels, Gufa. Even in that itself, there's 4 different levels, based on the Pasuk in Niyah. We're saying at this particular moment. That's what we said that the Rebbe means here. But those 2 madregas in ayin, both of them klulim, v'miyuchadim in atzmusi is bora, and they're all one Indian. They're all in a kuz. What the Indian of the Tzimtzum does is that it's mila and leaves shayach to the Eibush at one level, kilo that he takes that for himself, and that's what we call the eino legili chutz latzmusi. And then he's Ali Day there, Ali Day that rotten that the Eibush wants to give Lamata. There occurs this Helam, God will call the Tzimtzum, that comes out a new level altogether, what does it shine to the ultimate Ashpah to the Talmud. And that Havdalah, Ali Day the Tzimtzum, or that's Mavda between the 2 levels of the Ayin. In other words, you got the Ayin of the Yesh Hamiti, and that kill remains nidbak in the Yesh Hamini, and then the Tzimtzum is Mavdil, as from the same Atzmas. There comes out a new Iskalas. But that's him picked to see me do it. Ki Cholila to say that that's more the Yesh than what that is. Havayahu Elokim. Kale Deyois Havaya. It's all the same Havaya in the Tvei Deyois Padova. And if what the Tzimtzum does, it's Mavdil Ben Zela. It's not the pshat that that's just a ha'ora mizeh. First we add another one, then we make another ha'ora from another ha'ora. In a way that's the case. That's what you might call looking at it chitzenius, and just purely from a stausless level, that's emet. But the etzem beer, that symptom is nicht there. And Bechlal the Inyan von Tzimtzum is not B'derech Helem ultimately. Its whole Inyan is to be Mavdil Bein Oifen a Shaykh to the Makablim, or Oifen which is a Dayan Enu Shaykh Helem Ha? Helem Makablim. Amamela, that's the Pa'ula of the Tzimtzum. Amamela, that with the Mit is verstandig. This whole Inyan of what's Mavura considers that Kila, the Rotzen of the Eibishter, is ultimately to reach the Nisava Kajbachli is Barak Dira Betach Toinim. And in that Rotzen, there's a Rotzen which is Rachel Galis Vela Hashpia. And that Rotzen Galis Vela Hashpia causes that he in himself is Madhu Pain. Was is not for the elements and was is yeah for the elements. And pink to see with the Rav is Mavdu Ma'ashi Yesh Shaykhs El Elements and Masha Eno Shaykh El Elements.
Is there Adam, right?
Is
there Adam, someone who was Das Elyon?
Adam?
Das Elyon, right? Is there Adam, someone who has...
Zera Adam?
Yeah, is there Adam, Zera Behema?
This is I'm sorry, my boy. Tony Schmischen now drinks. Zera Adam and Zera Behema is under... That's my drag is in the Shomas. The Shomas under it. Here we're talking about the Oyer Shaykh al-Ilmas. In the Shomas and Shaykh and Tzimtzum.
We're talking about Yesh and Ayin, so...
Sorry, ich meine, misch nicht zusammen in your understand? Must be careful not to mix it.
Can't mix seeds together. Can't mix up seeds.
Yeah, good. Auch upon him, in Mamela nimmt er auf Chise, aber in die von sehr Orbe sehr bei ihm ist eine, which is betäumelt, ist das Scheiches und Mesuyam, aber nicht das die Indien, das ist nicht Schomen. In den Schomen sind Scheiter hohen in der Zimtzum und die ganze, sehr Indien nachher, so ein bisschen ein anderer Indien. Hallo Scheiches. Nimmt er auf Chise, that the whole pool of the Tzimtzum here is not so much the Inyan HaHelem, but the Inyan HaAvdolah. And that's what the Rebbe used on several occasions. If you can remind me, you'll see they use the word Havdolah Sa'erach, Havdolah Zeh, Havdolah Zeh, because here we're talking about the Pa'ula of the Rotzen Be'atzimtzum, Al-Manas La'gia El HaTalmud, and he's the ganze Rike, and he's the ganze Tachlis. So the same with the Koyach HaTzameach. The whole Tachlis is to reach that there should be the Inyan von Tzmicha B'Poyah. That's the whole ultimate Tachlis. In order to get to that, there's one iron, and then there's I say one iron, it's not just there's one iron, there's two irons, and both of them include him in the Koyach HaTzameach Ha'achmi. Haliday the Inyan of the Tzimtzum, in the earth itself, where Kilo Mavdil Bein Shnei Ayinyonim. That's all. But not that one is more and the other less, or one is pure ha'ora only from the other. Now both of them are Gila Elakus, but they have to be Nivdolim Zemi. That's a pool of the Tzimtzum. But this is the beer L'choira HaNochain in that little bracket where the Rebbe put early day Tzimtzum was mit the Inyan gets a bit of a proper perspective.
But when you say that the thing originally was included in the call, the prod that's down here, right? Let's say that does that mean that exact thing Kimoyer was included in answers? Let's say us, where let's say Adi Shama comes out and clean with something in the body. Does that mean that the body was completely included?
I don't know what Mr. Rangeform to the Shama is weiter. Laws up to the Shamas. Right now we're talking about the Oyer Shaykh al-Ilamas. The Shamas are an undermice.
Does that mean that in some sense that...
I don't know. If you're talking about the Shamas, because the Shamas is a Ligamri another in. It's a whole different... It's not charged to... The Shamas are not charged to the Tzimtzum.
Well, let's say...
They're not charged to it. It's under Zach altogether.
Let's just say for let's say a plant. Does that mean an apple? Does that mean that apple, as it is, was included in Atzmos at some point? Because
oh yeah, for sure.
As to mean to say in Atzmos as it is.
But we have to be careful. But not the apple agashmi. Not the apple agashmi. But the apple beruch niyusay or be'etzem it's a retainer is Baruch, it was column. Yeah, 100%. 100%. We have to say that. And that's what's more that there's the inyan from Yesh Mi'ayin is only going to get to the Hakshoma of the inyan. But not to the etzem meaning that there was Kaviyochel, a madrega of apple, in the rotten of the Eivish. It was koil all the pratim. It was koil all the pratim. And that's what we see here. The koicha base, the iron base, is koil, when we say he's a klal, shaykh al prat, he's koil millions of pratim. And even there, the truth of the matter is, he's also a bit of a merchak from the actual inyan, the way those things are klulim, and the way they actually become. And that's also inyan from Yesh Mi'ayin. The truth is that the ultimate Yesh Mi'ayin is from that klal habais into the, and that's what we say, that the emissary Yesh Mi'ayin, that's written in the Sefer Ikrim, that the emissary Yesh Mi'ayin is Einlach Yesh Mi'ayin Godel Mi Zeh, meaning the etzem isavas of the Gashmi Mina Ruchnias. You follow? The etzem Gashmi is from Elikus, but that is the highest form of Yesh Mi'ayin. And that's, in that Ayin base, there's a Heder Erech also, of it's not the same type of Heder Erech it is in the Ayin Aleph. Because in the Ayin Aleph, it's a Heder Erech, Slicha, that has no Yachas whatsoever, no inyan klal. So that leads us to another shayla. I mean, we have to be marked, otherwise we're going to leave this in without getting to the right Havana. Every Indian's got to have a right Havana. But if they put in that bracket, he knew exactly what he was doing with the mid. And that's a call the Kavona Masuyemas. To tell us that even that Ayin Habeis, which is Nimshach, or that is a Gilu Elakus Mamish. And I remember the Gilu Elakus was called originally, that means Nivda Etzim. So, and that means to say that the Etzim Koyach Ha'atzmas itself is Nimshach through that Ayin. Because somehow or another the Yesh has got to come about. It doesn't float out of that Ayin. What comes into that Ayin is Etzim Koyach Ha'atzmusi is Barak Lahav is Yesh Me'ayin Be'evazah Amukla. We have to say that Ayin is Mamishu is Barak. Amishu. Now within Hu Kufa, it's a different type of oifen of him than it is the Ayin Aleph, and that's what I pointed out. That's the beer in the Lashon Tzimtzum. The Tzimtzum here is the in of Abdullah, not the in from the Yerida or Ismaitas. I mean, there's also a miut Masuyam, but this doesn't the war. The word is mitzad Elikus the miut, nicht mitzad the Tzimtzum. Ibietem. Amamela, Lafisa Kumtais, that since that's the case, we have to ask, it goes back now the other way, the Shara, why did you need all these inyanim in the middle, if it's the Koyach Ha'atzmi of Yesh Mi'ayin Lahavas, it's a Yesh Mi'ayin Ve'evzah Mukhla, and that comes through now, this Ha'ora Ha'beis, will make it right from the very beginning. We should have open Beklala, even a Koyach Ha'atzmi. Yeah, just have the Eivish, just Kaviyach, the Eivish sits in Atzilus, and he just says he creates the earth, Yesh Me'ayin, he can do that for sure. And then he just says, you produce this, and you produce that, and you produce something else. What do we need all these, madregas? First of all, there's etzim, maima, teitza, or desha, and then there's a koyach hatzamei, ha'atzmi, and that's all the atzmas in its own right. Then you got another ha'ora, and you got another ha'ora, and then through that is nimshach, the koyach ha'atzmi, into you get a yesh me'ayin, you get an apple, and you very rightly said that apple was all of it a Chinese butter. I mean, you were the one who pointed out the other night that every tzemach is another tzemach. He couldn't say that every tzemach was a little bit of Chinese butter. We have to say that. Nothing happens, stop. And every little worm that creeps on the earth is it's a little bit of Chinese butter. What is that? What do you need to have? First of all, the said to take orange dash. Then that made a koyach tzameh hakloli. That koyach tzameh is only nim tzabot. Doesn't have any shaylas. Then it goes through koyach tzameh hakloli haoras. Then there's a simsim, and there's a mavdil, and then there's another koyach comes down, and then he just now we can bring Gala the Yesh Mi'ayin. Now it comes. Here's my little apple after I had it in my rots, and I had the apple way back in the rots, and a muklat batshmusi is butter. I mean, what do you need all these inyanim in the mid? So the answer is that there's really no answer. The answer is that the Eibishter, we've already pointed this out on many occasions, that the Eibishter wanted that the whole Bria, as is Mavur, in certain drushim, it's written that we say every day in davening, tifal. That we say in the morning, before you get to the korbanos, you say, who can say to you what you should do and what you should make? You do whatever you like. In other words, that mitzad atzmus, ain't like a number, you can do anything. In other words, if David wanted the world, he could have just said, boom, mitzad atzmus, and there'd be a world. I mean, we didn't need all these errors and all the zachen in the middle, Bishvuma. Elamai, it's Mavur, and those same drushim, that the Eibishter, like we said before, ultimately speaking, the Magid, the Mezritcher Magid said that the Moshel of the Rab, the Talmud is the Moshel Aki Mechuven, Vaki Meduyak Sheyesh in Misholim, when they get to Ashpoy Eloki. So that's what the Mezritcher Magid. How? Because, once again, you got a Rab, what he's ain't a be'erach, and he wants to get down to that Talmud. It's the Avos HaTalmud, it's the Chavivus of the Talmud, and the fact that there's a Rotzen Atzmi, you have to be Mashpia, or that causes all these inyan, Kaviyocho happen. I mean, the same thing, not Kaviyocho, I mean, they do happen. And so, Lamaila, that's what the Alter Rebbe, you look in Perik Mem Tes, in Tanya, and look it up carefully, you'll see, those write the Alter Rebbe. The trouble is nobody looks carefully in Tanya. Tanya, everything stays taught in Tanya. There's nothing, all the chassidus, any way you can dream, everything's written in Tanya. And in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says over there that everything is to leave the Avos HaOdam. All the Tzimtzumim and all the readers and all the everything is mitzad Avos HaOdam. And he brings over there a famous Moshe on it, was saying, Kana Mochem Lech. Lahari v'chulu. Kunta is that dira b'taktoinim, or does mitzad the avos hataktoinim. If the ava says that we're doing this mitzad that we want the Talmud, and he should be eventually a dira for me, kabiyochel, as the Eibishter, then we're going to do it his way. He's going to be a kli. If we would just boom and just bring him about, there's no way that a limited creature like him can ever get back to Elikus. There's no chaya. Because Elikus would be Mamishat Smuzi, his brother, and the Hevdel error would be Azar, that there was nothing in the middle. Is there? This is not a drawing room meeting. You're sitting back with your hands in your pockets as if I'll be talking with a cigar in my mouth or something. Avdil. Apart from the fact it's a very unhealthy thing, a cigar. Imam El Kumta is the whole Indian is that we're interested in the other. And we're interested in coming Gamas or Elam Nasan Believer. That's what Kehelah says. Shlomo. Everything was put into the heart of man. It's all for his sake. Perik Mem Tes, you look at Perik Mem Tes, everything's written over there. It comes to is that we've got to do it in a way that the man will know what's happening, as it were, to him. You can't just put him there and just say there he is and he has no kesher with Elikus. Clown him. You got to do it in such a way, the famous lesson of the Mezritcher Magid, that you got to do it in such a way through your readers and ha'oras and tzimtzumim that he should be able to come back up the ladder. He should be able to go up through all those ha'oras v'tzimtzumim. Therefore, Elikus, like he said very nicely, Lagabi apple. Yeah, the apple, the way it is in Etzim Ritzine, Haposhut, Lagabi the way it is in the Griya, I have the Erech Sheinker, Kamuyu, Amitas Tuchaza, Ein Arek, and that's what the Sefer Ikrim says, Ein Arek, Yezim is there, that's the Grest, Ein Arek Sheyeh. How are we going to make that old kesher? Therefore, first of all, we make a ha'ora. And then that ha'ora gufa, we gather that there was a new ha'ora in the whole plan. And there's another ha'ora. Kideya, the man should be able to go back up, and today that every Indian should eventually lead backwards upward to the Indian where it started, and that these Tzimtzumim are not b'derech Helam Gomo, they're only b'derech Havdalah Almanas, and eventually saying what he is, and he should be able to eventually go from one a picture in the Ha'ora into a traitor. And therefore, Elikus is so ein areich that you have to go through these Ha'oras. Otherwise, it's not Shaya. The Yevishter doesn't really matter to him ultimately how the whole Tzemach grows. But it goes as it grows on. You follow? The whole thing was done today that ultimately the Shleimus Kolabrio, who is the Odom, he should be able to appreciate, and he should be able to be Elam midarge ledarge, and therefore those inyonim were klulim. And the Far Yeshlem a gewaltige prat neusef pesach, that this whole Indian, and I saw it right at the end of the iron page, the current Hemshel from iron page, Chelik Gimel, right near the end, come out on the last page. I don't talk to Rabbi Azavot, he said all these inyonim, but again to these Mesholim from the Koyach and all those inyonim, all of them are all in the oil which is already kilo, that the Teves is already giving it for the oil. Even that Ha'ora Klali is already oil which is already for the sake of the oil in a way. It's not mamish. Yeah, Azar, the Teves could have produced another oil which would be absolutely in a reg also. In other words, all these madrigas are all for the sake of the Priya, they're all for the sake of the Nevroim, they're all for the sake of the little apple. Oh, the apple alone is not the tachlis. The man has to eat the apple. Not like the Chayt Eitzadah is Cholila. The man has to eat the apple. You know the famous quip of the Divrei Chaim he made. They once said that the Divrei Chaim didn't used to make a shechianu on payers. So they never heard him say shechianu on payers. So they once asked him, why didn't you make a shechianu on payers? So he said I have to make a shechianu on them payri. He said, their payri has to make a shechianu as it's gefallen by me, that it fell into my lot. He said, I'm not going to leave it down, I'm being mild and I'm bringing it to where it's really supposed to go. So he said, the payri has to be pleased that it fell by me, not that I have to be pleased that I've cut the payri. Meaning, the ultimate tachlis is that the mensch has to eat the payras, but he's got to eat them, even because that they'll eventually get back to where they all came from. And so you can't do it in his own way. You can't just have atzmas and then payri. You could. I mean, it's so in a rate that ein marach shovel l'davar klalu. That's the bios of the kol inyonim ha'ele. And if that makes sense, the whole in. And if I in the oil which is already shayach eloilmas kilo, the already in from the oil which is nimshu buhoilmas, in that kufa there's already all these targets. And there's kilo of iron which is too much for the world and everything. But nonetheless, like every day, that's already oil which is shayach to the world. It's already, because it's all for the sake of the world. All these in are all for the sake of the world. Kein yesh lema b'derech. Oh, come to say that in from the Tzimtzum is a Havdalah. It's a separation. You know, the Chagdeish Machal Tzmicha Mamish. Shebekoyach Zeh Yeshish Kalos Koyches Protiim Liyesh Mekoylim L'Tzmochim Protiim. In other words, it was all in the Eivshter. He just separates that all. That power is his power. It's not just a ha'ora from something else. That's him picked as if he answers him. And after he said about Bekem, Kemoya Koyach Lahatshmir Tapuchim, Vakoyach Lahatshmir Shkedim, or all those different pratim are included in that cloud. Vasovim Kain Mine Peiris, Vachomene Peiris, Vasovim Hakoyach Koyach Pratim Muvdolim. Shebechinas Ayin Zeh Harihu Moka Hayesh Shalapeiri. Yeah, with that particular ayin, that's the moki of the yesh, of the yesh aproti, shuhu hayesh amishave miha ayin. In other words, that this is already a cloud which got itself protim, and they have a certain yachas from the cloud to the prat. However, you notice that the Rebbe says, Hakul koyches protim muvdolim. Now, what does he mean by that? What does he mean by saying that the koyach is protim muvdolim? So here he points out that Kaviyoho, this klal has got in itself pratim, of all the pratim are like individual pratim. The muvdolim means that they're separate, one from the other. And the reason for that is, if you say that they're all klulim together, then you get back to what you were like in the Ana Ha'ala. Because over there they're also, we have to say that potentially, mitzad the etzem yechoilis of that prat, of that klal, they're there. It's just that they're not there in any identifiable state, le'esh ato. Or but if you say that they've already become identifiable, and you say, oh no, they're all klulim, then once again you're going back into your state the way you were in the Ayin Ha'aleph. Therefore the Rebbe says, no, we have to say that they're pratim muvdalim. Each prat is like in the klal, its own identifiable self. And when you plant a seed which is good for shkaidim, so that just goes up into that prat and draws out, as it were, a kamuvin, it's ruchnis, and ishkashmias, aber auch upon him does it. Those are the inyan that they're already the pratim are identifiable, each one liatzmai. They're pratim muvdolim. She'en appreciate who ayev mishava meo ayin. Omno, however, koyach hakloli al klolis inyan atzmicha zeu b'chinas ha'ayin animshach me'ayeshoah miti. And in that particular case, the yeshoah miti is the koyach hatzameach ha'atzmi be'atmoi. So there we are, we've been through the whole marshal, and now we're getting back to the nimshul. So he says, V'hadugma mizeh yuvan le'ayla. The beginnes yesh ho'amiti, the te'emes yesh, yehu beginnes ha'atzmes. Yeah, the emes, the concept of being and of existence, is only the atzmes himself, the very atzmes of the Rebishter. She'enu begeder amshocha, nothing, you can't say about him that he's in any way derived, or he goes downwards, or anything in any form of that nature in the very atmas. Ve'enu begeder mokele oilamas, therefore he's not shy to be a makor to the elements, because a makor has got to have some sort of yachas and basis of comparison to the thing for which it's drawn. And therefore the Abish is only a sibah. He's not a makor. He's the reason why all the things are there, but he's not a makor. The Bechina Sheishu Amiti is who, I'm sorry, Bechina Atzmas, Eina Begeder Mokir Elamas, Afloi Bechinas Mokir Klali. He's so withdrawn that he's not even a klal. How klal is Mudalagami from Pratim. He's just Beklal Ki. Why do we say that? Eina Begeder Shaykhas Lazeh klal. He's not in any definitional state of having any shaykhas to that inyan at all. He's not shaykh to pratim or to any being in any way koil pratim, even if he's koil them in a way with an upper mitzvah. He's not shaykh to that klal. How do you say that everything is kol? Everything comes from the atzmas. It all comes, even for yechoilas. He's able to produce that. It can come from him. But that's purely mitzad the shleimus of the atzmas. It's not the immediate musag of his colorless, and mamela, it's not the immediate musag of shaykhet. Ke'ina begeder shaykhas lezeh klal. U'b'chinas ha'ayin shel ha'yeshu ha'amiti, u'b'chinas ha'gilui, shehu b'chinas ha'orah levad. Well, that's already an inyan from gilui, and therefore he said it's an inyan from ha'orah levad, lo'i b'chinas ha'etzem. V'arei hu b'chinas ha'mshocha min ha'atzmas. Not ha'mshochas ha'atzmas, because we just said before that the atzmas itself is not shayach, but klal to any hamshoch. Not shayach klal. Therefore the atzmas is not shayach to gilui. It's not shayach to say the atzmas is begoli or he's beheadam. He's just what he is. Isn't he? It's a meli. He's just what he is. And like the Alter Rebbe writes over there in Torah, Pasha Vayera, the Alter Rebbe writes there, when I get to the Atzmas, he says the Atzmas ula maila mihelim v'gilui And he says that what people are aware of the Atzmis, they say, Baruch Hashem, Kavonasom, Allah Atzmis, and he brings over there a fil anoshim ba'amiyol. So some of the women folk get a little bit annoyed about the link of the word noshim with Ami Ha'oretz together, but anyway. Whatever, we've got to be careful with the suffragettes and all these sort of people. So anyway, the Alter Rebbe says over there that the afila peshutei ha'am, not necessarily, not meaning the notion of peshutei ha'am. What it means is that they're not, their meaning is not so much hasoga, it's not so much iniv and hasoga. Even though nowadays you got girls' schools where they know more Rambans and all sorts of than what the Zacharim do. En there was metut wegen dem weiß ich nicht. Auf welcher von ihm kein sehr they know, and when they say Baruch Hashem, they mean the Atzmus, but that's just because he's the emes of being. He's there, and the Neshama, as we said, pointed out before, is another gear altogether. The Neshama is magic, the emes Verhanenkeit of the Atzmus. But not that the Atzmus is a begolui. This is Taichi's begolui. He's just what he is. So was it a pshat gilui? Gilui can only be through a ha'ora mina atzmus. In other words, they have to go out a luminescence only from the atzmus, and then he can talk about gilui. Then the atzmus is being megala himself to the mekablim, but only in the form of a yitzia of a ha'ora, and therefore that's shy to call hamshocher. He says hamshocher barat hamshocher mina atzmus, not the hamshocher ha'atzmus. וזהו שנקרא עין, לפי שהוא בחינת האור הלבד, and that's why we call that ayin. If an ayin, why is it called ayin? And we said there's ayin aleph and ayin abayz. Why is it called ayin? Because it's only a ha'oreh. Imamela ha'oreh legabi etzem is einu be'er klalu, and therefore it's called ayin. Avim mikol mokim ha'oyer hu mi'ein ha'etzem. וכשם שהעצם מובדל בערך, כמו כן האור הוא במיילו ומדרגה גבוהה, שהוא מובדל בערך עדיין מבחינתו ההילמס מצד עצם מהוסי. In other words, at this, here we meet up again on the one hand, and this is the famous dichotomy with the Mekubalim, as it were, where we mishtashaya in this Indian. And the Alter Rebbe comes to this famous in some of Avdot in Vayir L'Chavai Sayam V'Adushim Shel Achrin, and the Rebbe comes I think we learned that. We learned that Maimah. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Derech Hagav, that was the beginning of that Maimah, was what the Rebbe wrote inside the house of the Kaisa. You raised up the mouth, so it's secret. I told you guys the Maimah. You don't remember one week to the other the Maimahs. The Rebbe Rashab, he wrote the first page of that Maimah inside the house at a case of Ilam Yamach Shemoy V'Zichrei. V'Lefi Divrei HaChasidim, that was the beginning of the Nefila, even though it took a few years. Le'achrim Mizeh. It follows that like his masbeh over there, that the oil, which is Maya, Mina Atzmas, that's got in itself, as it were, two, like almost contrasting aspects to it. And that's the famous Uftu, the Alter Rebbe, how he was, he was miyashiv, all the different like loose ends that are still there in this famous doctrine of the oil. And the Alter Rebbe came up with the Lashon over there in the Siman Kof in Tanya, in the Geras HaKodesh. The Alter Rebbe comes up with the Inifan Oyer Me'ein Hamoyer, that the oil is Me'ein Hamoyer. And so we pointed out on many occasions that the word Me'ein indicates a very strong passage of Gilui of important characteristics of the Atzmas. However, the very fact that you say it's oil means it's not the Inifan Atzmas, it's only a Ha'ora Bill. But he said there's an amazing in the Moshel of oil, what we say that oil is Me'ein Hamoya. At a fire, we literally dance on both chasnas. On the one hand, we say it's only a inif and aora, but einu be'erach ve'einu mino atzmis klau. Mitzad Sheni, we say it's me'ein hamoya. That's gotten itself the whole characteristics ha'atzmiyim of the man, not all of them, but inyanim musuyamim, and again, eleinu me'ein, what they call mo'er me'ein hamoya. So that's what he says here. On the one hand, we say that it's called a ha'ora. Aval means but. In the same musag of ha'ora, mikol mokir ma'er me'ein ha'etzem. Ukashem she'etzem moved to be'erech, k'moi kein ha'er, v'amar ha'madrei gavoy, she'u moved to be'erech, atayim miprin zoyen, mitad etzem Mahusay. In other words, since it's me'ein ha'etzem, then it's kilo for our purposes like the etzem. Pink to the etzem is moved al b'mahus. I mean, that's also moved al b'mahus. But on the other hand, it's only a ha'orah. It can eventually lead to other inyanim which are important for our purposes. And ever he said it's a inif and ha'orah, even though it's moved al Adayin from the Be'erach, mitzad etzem ha'useh. Ukenal, b'moshul, the koyach hatzameach, in that moshul, the koyach hatzameach, the kashem shekoyach hatzameach ha'atzmi, who moved al Be'erach, mitzmi chogashmi, yes, but that's the yesh ha'miti in our moshul. Kain ha'arosei, the same with the ha'orav, that koyach hatzameach, who gam kem b'chinas havdola be'erach. Now here we use the word havdola in the inif and erach. Before we mentioned symptom, we were by differentiating and separating off between two inyanim, and here we in havdola in the sense of withdrawn legamri. It's completely another mahus, and therefore it's called mudal be'erach. In other words, that the ha'ora hashniya is completely and utterly shaloi be'erach. It has no basis of comparison whatsoever. Gabi zeh. And mama, you learn from all that smoking, which are eventually going to come out. It's moved to completely. Erach means the idea of comparative basis or value almost. K'moi kain hu b'chinas ha'ayin shalayish amid in the nimshal l'mayla. The same is in the union of the ayin of the yesh ha'amiti shuhu mi'ein ha'mo'er. Yeah, he's got in himself certain ikar characteristics of the ma'or. Harihu b'chinas ta'avdolas ha'erach min ha'ilamet. He's completely moved out from any shayches or any comparable basis or any, like you might call, value basis. Yeah, from the inner of the ilames, she'ena be'erach mokelo ilames. He's not be'erach. It's absolutely incomparable. There's no basis that he should be be'erach ha'ilame. Therefore, he's moved on me and betatlis ha'av dola. And that's what he uses the expression that he's b'havdola sa'erach. Havdola meaning here the idea of richuch and separation completely. Havdola l'mayla. V'gam, he says, now here we meet up with another sfara, but that's going to be developed in the coming Maimon. V'gam, even though we mentioned it very briefly earlier, v'gam liyoisei b'pchinas heder hamatzius, mishum ze einu begeder moker adayin. He said, and furthermore, due to the fact that this is heder hamatzius, it's the exact absence, or what you might call a complete negation of any entity or state. It's not a matzias, and therefore he said, mishum zeh, due to that, it's einu begeder moker adayim. As an underword. Previously we said that it's moved al be'erach. It's so, mahus is so elevated and elyon l'gabi de elamas that there's no way you can get from there to the elamas because it's moved al in its state of comparison altogether. Now he's saying that there's another inyan for something to be a mocker to something else. We'll sum it up. Umashu b'chinas mocker lo elamas zehu racha oram b'chinas ha'ayin shel ha'yeshu ha'miti. Well, that means the ayin ha'beis. Yeah, that comes comes alidei havdalah, in the sense of separating off one from the other, or literally particularizing one and bringing it out peculiarly from the other. And that's the union of the ayin of the yesh hanibra already. That's the second ayin. So I asked to Shalom, what does he mean by this union? Something which is beheder hamatchias mishum ze eino begeder moker adai. It's not able to be a moker. So moker, the word moker we've already had on several occasions. Moker means a source, but it means a source which, by functioning the way it does, it gives rise to the thing that comes out of it. And therefore, something which comes b'derech a complete richuk or complete eina reich is not able to be called a moker, which gives forth rather. Shalei be'erech is not able to be called a moker. So the Rebbe said imke. That means to say that if something's going to be a moker for an inyan of something which is already beged the matzias, then it's also going to be a little bit beged the matzias. It's also going to be basically in the same general, what you might call definitional state, in order to be a moker for their minyan. So let's forget about the from erech now. We're talking in the etzim, what you might call mahu, the etzim nekudas ha'inyan, that if that's not a form of a matzias, it can't be a moker for a matzias. In other words, for one to be a moker to something else, it's got to have a little slight touch of that particular in it. I don't know why it occurs to me, but I think I told you humorously it occurs to me. I told you guys a famous story once that the Rebbe Rashab told a boch in Tomchei Tmimim that in order to get potter from the Preziv was the call-up, the national army, they're being taken into mobilization into the army, that he should make himself a finger, a hantele or something like that. There was a way they used to do it. There was a special man that he did it. He twisted their fingers in the way that their hands were all, for a few months the hand went all, mauled. It was supposed to come back. But in most cases it did. I told you about it. I once met an old Rav in Lubavitch here in Kwachabab when I first came from Australia. And he still had a crooked finger, and he said, by me it never went back. I told you the story. I don't remember from one time to the other. I told you the story. Anyway, at least I think I did. Maybe not. Anyway, I met him. And he was passing me something on the table. I couldn't help noticing one of his fingers was like crooked, So he noticed that I was looking at it. And he said, he cooked me off a finger. So he said, I'll tell you how I got that finger. He told me the whole matter. So the Rebbe Rashab told a bocher that he shouldn't do that. He should, what they call in Yiddish, machen a hantele. He should machen a hantele. So the family didn't want to do it. The family said, I said, to form our loved son, we can't possibly do that. There's another way you get out. You make yourself meshuggah. Make yourself meshuggah. So they said, you have to make yourself. They persuaded the boy that he should try and make himself meshuggah. So he went and he tried to make himself meshuggah, and they just laughed him out. And isn't that what they took him? Because he couldn't really make himself meshuggah. They took him. So the parents came to the Rebbe and they said, you careful, if we would only listen to the Rebbe, if we would only touch her. She told us to make a hundred, we said to make him meshuggah. He said, well, why didn't it work? If you make yourself meshuggah, then you look meshuggah. So the Rebbe said, oh no. He said, after man's a meshuggah, darf man sein a bissl.
You're crazy.
He said, to make yourself meshuggah, you've got to be a little bit meshuggah. And then you make yourself more. But if you're not a little bit... So the same thing, if you want to be a makif, if you want to be a makif for a matzias, you got to be a matzias. You got to be in the getter of matzias. If you're not a bishin kid, if you're not a little bit in that getter, then you can't. You can't be a makif for the in of a matzias. I don't know why it occurred to me, but maybe because I see that everybody is very heavily fatrogen this evening, and everybody's worried about why Mashiach hasn't Mekabel. I'm equally worried. Well, we got to be besimcha. We have to. Darf mamshik sein der Rinje von Teves the Schmeitzes. So therefore says the Rebbe that you got to be in a geder for Matthias in order to be a mocker for Matthias. That wasn't a touch Matthias. What is a pshat Matthias? Yeah, Matthias means something that can be like an entity, and it's not botel b'kol mikol. It might be bottle b'Matthias. Or the very fact you say it's botel b'Matthias means it's all called off. There's ever in and of a Matthias. Mashik in the Madrigas shall a mile me mocker all together. We don't talk about them being a Matthias of oil even. In other words, there's certain levels in oil what the Zohar Kodesh says about them, lav inun nehoiri. They're not lights, even though they are, but they're not. And the pshat in the Zohar Kodesh is that there's certain inyonim in oil what they're gilui, aora, but they're gilui manit v'atzmusis, but their whole union is only to be megala atzmusis. Absolute manit, only to even gilui atzmusis. But what do I need that for? I mean, I'm supposed to be going down. But there's a reason why you have to have sometimes only gilui atzmusis, because eventually Mashiach's coming every second. Aliyahu was Mashiach, but this Galavan, it's written, you guys don't even know what you're doing. in the Siddur, in the altar of a Siddur, there's a mime at the altar of a word. When I get to the Siddur, Kol Yang, Yadayim Yadayim. So Pasuk taught from Parsha Tel, but Yitzchak. So over there in that Maimah, the altar of it says that right now there's certain inyanim which are Elam Eseinim Yecholim Lekabel. Oh, he said Liyosi Shiyovo HaMashiach Yuchel Lekabel. In other words, all those things that Elamis are not able, B'Shum Even, that Elamis are not able, B'Shum Even, to be Makabel, when Mashiach will come, steht nicht Leachle Tchir Sameitzim. Steht there, when Mashiach will come, Yuchel Lekabel. In other words, the Gilu Atzmusa is Barak, but now the Elamis are not able to be Makabel. They will be, when Mashiach comes, they'll be Makabel. And that's what the Alter Rebbe writes in Perek Lamed Vav. Everything is a time. All straight and done. So the Alter Rebbe says over there that Me'ein Zeh Hoya B'Matan Torah Ve'er Hashem, and that oil which the Elamis Einam Yechelim Makabel Kiblu, but a custom. I'll call Dibur V'Dibur Porcha Nish Moshe. That's what he writes over. They couldn't, they did, but they didn't. They could and they couldn't. They could and but they weren't able to. Avliyasid Love, as they stated, when the time the Nagura, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nois and Koyah Petzadikim Sheyuklu Lekabel. Everybody be able to be Makabel. In other words, ultimately speaking, he wants to give us that oil which is mamish only Gilei Atzmusei oil mamish that he wants to give down ultimately. But right now the elements are not able to become Makabel. And therefore, that which is mamish Gilei Atzmusei is not oil. It's something we don't understand. It's oil, but it's not a Matthias of oil. It's not oil but Matthias. I mean, it's rather hard to understand, I agree, but that's the Matthias. The whole meaning with this Indian of the eye and the Yesh Amiti is already a oil. It's already a Gilui. What it's Shayat, from that we should be able to be Makabel. It's already a gather of a Matthias. Yesh can easy Indian shall Matthias kosher. But what he's saying is that in the Indian of the and how it is Meir Mamish with the Yesh Amini, it's not in the Inan of Matthias in the way that it'll be able to be a mocker for the Inan of Elamis. Lagabi them, it's in the Inan of Heder of Matthias. And therefore, Lagabi them, it can't be a mocker Elamis. And therefore, something which is not a gather of a emes Matthias, that it should be able to be shachas to a mocker of under a Matthias, and that's called poshut. The Lashon of Chassidus that is peshitus. Peshitus means moved out from Matthias, moved out from specific oifane gilu or specific inyonim. Well, that's called pshitas. But once again, the pshitas has in itself a dafki because it's poshut. It has in itself the yechilas to give out all the pratim. which will later come out. And that's what we said before. Those are the pshat. In the Tzimtzum, all we do is just mabdil between different koiches in the same inyan. In that not ability to be Matthias, hidden, at least al yedei Tzimtzum, is the ability. But Goloi, it can't be a Matthias, it can't be a mokir to a Matthias, because the Gabi it's not Matthias Beklal, and that's what's called Pashut. Meaning it's moved out from any specific Gilui, and it's not constituted in any specific Gilui or any specific Inyan. And that's what we call Peshitas. So that's a new idea, and that's what the Rebbe wrote before, those two Inyanim. Remember, he wrote those two Inyanim. He wrote first of all, Be'erach Elohemus, and then he said, V'gam Einu, B'chinas Matzias, Pshitas, She'einu Begid of Matzias, Liyais Mokir. Now, it's that idea now, at the beginning of the Maimah, we're going to touch that in more detail, this whole interstructure of something has to be a Matthias in order to be a Mokir, and in that Kufa it has to have a certain, through that, it has a certain closeness to be, as it were, a Mokir to all the Inyanim of the Matthias. If it's not Matthias, it can't be a Mokir Cloud, not the Inyan for Matthias, and that's what he calls Pshitas. We're going to see this concept of withdrawnness and Havdalah derech Peshitas. So he wanted it, and so he got it. And that's the Inyan. And now we begin with Ani l'doidi v'doidi li haroya b'shay shanim. But that's also a Gevaldik Inyan, if you do a Meforsam. Remember, what we need right now is a day we should say, the Yidden have done enough Ani l'doidi. And therefore what has to be now is only the doidi li. Oh, you want a little bit of something? So we say, Aroya v'sheshanim, they've been preparing the garden already for so many generations, and so long, and have been growing all these roses and all these Adma sai, and take of miyad mamish. Good. Okay. Thank you, Mario.